Amrita, going back to demand destruction, so you say it starts, I think, at $150. Where does demand get destroyed first? Is it in Asia, or will they have access to the Russian oil? How does it play out?
Well, I think it's going to be Europe that's the worst affected and worst hit, because it's both oil and gas. We've already seen very high inflationary environment in both Europe and the US, and that's where economic growth comes off first, and that's kind of where the biggest hit to consumers is. So it's Europe, then US. Asia, in some ways, of course, could benefit from slightly cheaper oil, particularly China and India, if they are able to buy these discounted cargoes.
And that was Amrita Sen, Director of Research at Energy Aspects.
And you heard it here. Watch for gas rationing in a growing number of countries.
And Brent crude at of $150 a barrel.
Coming up,
Deutsche Bank is grappling with the situation in Europe.
you're listening to Bloomberg Best. The war in Ukraine. Russia's invasion is gaining pace. How is the White House responding? The U.S. banning transactions with Russia's central bank. Bloomberg Sound On brings you the top headlines from Eastern Europe. The other side of this story is the refugee crisis, along with the latest news from D.C. President Biden addressed the nation from the White House. Bloomberg Sound On with Joe Matthew. The headlines have been fast and furious. Weekday afternoons at 5 on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
We're all horrified by what's happening in Ukraine. Images of civilians affected by the war are heartbreaking. International Medical Corps has been in Ukraine since 2014. Now, we're expanding relief efforts inside and outside the country to provide medical and mental health services, protection for women and children, and clean water. The needs are immense. You can help. Please visit internationalmedicalcorps.org to find out how.
This is an emergency Ukraine appeal from UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. Your help is needed now. Vulnerable people are being forced to flee. They need emergency shelter, blankets, and basic relief items. Please go online to unhcr.org/donate Ukraine to give what you can today. Families are scared and need life-saving support. Please give what you can to help people in need. Just go online to unhcr.org/donate Ukraine. Thank you.
Want to invest in crypto, but not sure what to buy? Domain Money offers actively managed crypto portfolios designed to build your wealth. The Domain Strategies team has done the work to help pick the right crypto investments for you. Get broad exposure to a variety of the leading crypto investments, including Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Polygon, with an investment in one of the Money's crypto portfolios. Don't guess or chase the latest trends. Using Domain Money strategies is like having your own dedicated investment team with deep expertise in crypto, focused on building your wealth with live. Domain Money today on the Apple App Store, or go to domainmoney.com. That's domainmoney.com. Domain strategies are managed by Domain Money Advisors LLC. Investing in cryptocurrency comes with particular risk. For important disclosures, please see domainmoney.com/legal.
Now Bloomberg traffic and weather. Still a rough go on the roadways. Looks like it's getting a little bit better, but we have a number of crashes in a number of spots. 189 South End to the Haynes Avenue in Newark. Crash there being cleared. Also, right now on the Palisades Parkway, northbound to exit 10. There's an accident investigation. We have the left lane blocked as a result. The Arizona Bridge upper deck closed in both directions because of high winds. The GW Bridge, Lincoln and Holland tunnels, no delays, but there's a split station, so you do want to travel with care. This report's sponsored by Indeed.com. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. With Indeed, you can attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Bloomberg 1130 3-day weather forecast. Winter weather advisory in effect until 7. Wind advisory until 4. Snow ending accumulation in inch or less in the city 1 to 3 north and west tomorrow. Some afternoon clouds. High 40s, 55 Monday. Best ride in and out of the city. Bloomberg now.
The Grizzlies beat the Knicks 118-114 in Memphis. John Moran scores 15 of his 37 in the fourth. Julius Randle with 36 for the Knicks. You see their winning streak ended 3. Islanders down the Jets 5-2. The Rangers get in Dallas. The Devils host the Ducks. Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers agreed to a 1-year deal. Free agent left-hander Carlos Rodon agrees to a 2-year contract with the Giants. Second round of the Players' Championship, Tommy Fleetwood and Tom Hoagie share the lead at 6 under. That's a Bloomberg Sports Update. I'm Joel Stern.
This is Bloomberg Best on Bloomberg Radio. This is Bloomberg Best. I'm Ed Baxter.
And I'm Denise Pellegrini.
These are certainly very, very tricky times for banks.
And we heard all about how Deutsche Bank, Ed, is doing as it deals with the Russian issue. At the same time, it tries to take things to the next level after its last big overhaul, right?
So, Denise, right, the German lender CFO James von Moltke sat down with Bloomberg's Guy Johnson in Frankfurt to talk about it all. Let's listen in.
Let me start by saying we're obviously horrified by the images we see every night and the conflict in Ukraine, and we look forward to some resolution and an end of the suffering that's going on. So we manage our company, though. We've been very focused on initially the first order impacts. We think very modest exposure altogether from a credit perspective on a net basis, about $600 million. And then from a market risk perspective, we were defensively positioned and have managed, I think, quite well through these early days. The second and third order impacts of this crisis are harder to judge. We're doing work with our first line and risk organizations to understand, together with clients, what the long-term ramifications might be.
It's been a very busy start to the year. How has the bank performed in the last couple of months? Has it performed above or below expectations? We've seen obviously a significant repricing in terms of Fed, ECB expectations. We've now got the Ukrainian situation, the Russian situation to deal with as well. What impact is that having on the bank? What have we seen over the last couple of months?
I think the critical message is we're on track, delivering against the promises that we made 3 years ago, and we've continually updated the markets about it, is how we've been positioning the company to meet its financial targets for 2022. First 2 months of the year have been quite successful for us. We're at or above our plans in all of the businesses. So revenues in line with or above plans, better than prior year. And the expense trajectory that we shared with investors in January, we're on track to deliver against. As you say, the markets have been dislocated in a number of different ways. The early part of the year, as people look towards a tightening cycle, potentially more accelerated even in Europe than we'd anticipated. And now we've gone through a period of real volatility, and it's a credit to our people that we've been able to manage through that, I think, really successfully, and importantly, support clients in this time.
Well, let's talk about the clients. How are they managing the situation in Russia? How many of the clients have already withdrawn? Those that are staying? How do you help them in this kind of environment? Obviously, we've seen significant changes in the Swift system, even basic things like payroll. Is that still possible? How does it happen? And how, as you manage that process, do you manage risk for the business?
Well, listen, it's complex, and we've been extremely tightly coordinated and across the bank. I think, again, to the credit of our managers, of our client service people, we opened a help desk essentially day 2 of this crisis to hear inbound questions and advise clients on how they should respond. There are a number of different dimensions. One is, of course, payments, and they need to manage their payment situation, but also essentially restructuring their operations to be stable in the post-sanctions world. We are present in Moscow to support our clients. We're largely there sort of in support of multinationals, and of course, as they adjust their business models, we adjust the services that our service footprint, if you like, adjusts with them. And then finally, the market risk. We've been able to create markets to help clients, both institutional and corporate clients, manage their exposures, their risks associated with this recent crisis.
Let's talk about the announcement that you also made, Matt, is related to the next 3 years. Kristen Sevin, the CEO, has been here for nearly 4 years, stabilized the bank. You're now looking for an evolution, not a revolution, in terms of what you're going to do with the bank. Just talking about the numbers. You are setting yourself interesting targets. They are targets that are going to require quite a lot of discipline in terms of what you're going to need to do to make them happen. But you basically are looking for a company that's going to go from a $25 billion company, euro company, to a 30 billion euro company. Just talk me through what is going to be necessary, what is going to change within the bank as we go through this evolution to make those numbers possible.
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. First of all, we call the strategy our global house bank strategy, and in many respects, it's the legacy of this institution. It's what we've been since 1870. We want to be the first call client or service provider for our clients. And we think we've positioned the businesses to be exactly that across all four of the core businesses, to support their clients with their global needs and managing risks and managing through the uncertainties of the coming decade. As you say, financially, that requires that our businesses capture the growth opportunities that lie ahead. We think those are attractive growth opportunities, creating a compound revenue growth rate of between 3.5% and 4.5% for the group over the next several years, which leads to the approximately 30 billion of revenues that you speak to, supported incidentally by the interest rate environment, which is finally a tailwind for us.
Yep.
Together with that, we need to be disciplined on costs, continue, in other words, the work that we've done over the past several years. The one thing that's different is we think there's an opportunity to reinvest in the businesses.
During this period, you are going to get to the point where you're covering your cost of capital, which is going to be a huge step forward. As you say, you are looking to reinvest in the business as well. I think the numbers you're looking to generate are around 20 billion of capital, of which 8 is going to go back to investors in the forms of buybacks and dividends. 12 is going to remain within the business to be invested. Just talk to me about where that 12 is going to go. Where are the priorities during this period?
Sure. Well, look, it is absolutely our aspiration. We need to execute on our strategies and plans, but we're very confident about the path that you outlined, which is approximately 20 billion of organic capital generation over the next several years. The reinvestment sort of splits about 4 billion, if I'm thinking average tangible equity, about 4 billion of retention required to support our our Basel III capital requirements. So there is some amount that's just to reflect those requirements. And then about 8 billion goes into the businesses. What you'll see is that the composition, so the allocation of equity in the company remains relatively stable over the next several years, really, 21, 22, and through to 25. But underneath that surface is work that needs to go on to offset the impact of Basel III in the business models that are most affected by it, to become more efficient with the resources over time, and in order to keep that capital allocation stable. And we think that's in itself is a strong signal.
We've also got a talent war that is raging within financial services at the moment.
We're in I think, in some ways, lucky situation. Clear programs underway to deliver efficiencies in the next several years that are not sort of on the whiteboard. They're in place and being acted on. The war for talent is absolutely present, and we think we're competitive in that war for talent. But it will continue, and we need to make sure that we are in the position to attract and retain, the best people to support the business plans that we're outlining.
And that was Deutsche Bank CFO James von Moltke with Bloomberg. Doug Johnson in Frankfurt.
And coming up,
Big disturbance in the port at the London Metal Exchange.
you're listening to Bloomberg Best. Breaking news first. War in Ukraine.
The words of the Russian president. There are certain positive developments as far as negotiators.
Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky says he's willing to consider compromises